I love machine tools, and one of my favourites, after the lathe and the milling machine obviously, is the horizontal bandsaw. It's just such an incredibly useful and versatile machine for making straight and mitered cuts in angle iron, box section, tubing, and of course bar stock, such as this 3.5-inch round here. I couldn't imagine doing this by hand with a hacksaw. I, for one, have got better things to be doing with my time. However, one thing you definitely can't do with a horizontal bandsaw is create profiled cuts like this in plate material. For that, we need to use a vertical bandsaw. And as you can see from this woodcutting bandsaw, the main differences are obvious. Number one is that the blade is in a different orientation, and number two, we also have this infeed table. Now, this infeed table allows us to feed the work into the blade and also apply torque to the workpiece as we're cutting, therefore resulting in a curved cut, which is exactly what I want to achieve on the metal cutting bandsaw. As I only make this kind of cut once in a blue moon, I can't really justify to the missus buying a new machine. So in today's video instead, I am going to try and modify my existing machine so that I can convert it into a vertical mode when needed. So first things first, and we need to get that blade vertical. And what's stopping us from doing that right now is this oil-filled damper system. This regulates the downfeed of the saw when it's cutting in horizontal mode, but it's luckily just a question of unbolting that knob and detaching the piston from the swing arm, which frees it up to pivot back into the vertical position. Now that we've got the swing arm into the right orientation, we need to consider how we might go about attaching an infeed table to it. And this model of bandsaw conveniently has a plate with 2 screws that I think is going to be just the job. I can simply remove these 2 screws, take that plate off and bolt a table to that fixture underneath. So let's crack on with making the infeed table. I'm going to be making out of mild steel. I've got this 200 by 200mm plate that's 10mm thick, and I'm going to be using my 2-part vise to secure it to the mill table. And the first thing I'm going to do is square up these rough sawn edges. One rather unfortunate thing is that I don't have enough table travel to get to both sides of the part in the same setup. So what I've had to do is to remove the part from the vise in between each machine in operation, which is going to have affected the accuracy somewhat. Having said that, checking it with the engineer's square, it is within a gnat's whisker, so I think I've got away with it this time. One thing I am worried about for the next operation is these parallels. I don't think they're going to offer me enough support. What I should be using is something like this. It's a much wider and thicker parallel. Unfortunately, this one is a bit too tall, and even if I lay it on its side, I only have one of them. I bought this in a junk sale, so what I need to do is to find some more appropriately sized parallels for future projects. But in the meantime, I'm going to have to stick with the small ones, and we'll see if that comes back to bite me later. And unfortunately, we've picked up a poor surface finish due to all that chattering. So I'm going to dial in a shallower depth of cut and recut that top surface and see if we can improve that. And although I was still getting a little bit of chattering there, the surface finish is much improved. So I'm going to move on to drilling the 2 counterbore holes that we're going to need to use to secure the table to the saw. And after filing some chamfers on those sharp edges, this is what we're left with. And the last thing we need to do here is to put a slit in the table so that we can get the table around the bandsaw blade. But the question is, how? I did consider using a small slotting drill, but the flutes on this slotting drill that I've got here are not long enough to make it all the way through the plate. So what we've ended up with is this rather precarious looking setup here. The plan is to use the slitting saw to create a thin slot across the plate there that's going to accommodate the saw blade. Now I don't want the slot to be too wide because I don't want chips falling down and into the mechanism below, so it just needs to be wide enough to accommodate the blade itself. Now, ironically, this would have been a perfect job for a vertical bandsaw, but nonetheless, we're going to have to make do with what we've got. I'm a bit worried because the workpiece is sticking so far out of the vise and is therefore not supported correctly, which is becoming a recurring theme in this project, I know, but we'll just have to see how we go. I did have a bit of a hairy moment at one point where the slitting saw started wobbling around a little bit and then decided to start undoing itself from its arbor. But it all worked out okay in the end and we ended up with an okay looking cut. So that's finished now, and we can fit it to the bandsaw and do a test cut. The machine's quite well balanced and most of the weight is over the back there, so I've no worries about this swing arm falling forward. But I will engage this safety latch just in case. And that feels nice and solid, so time for a test cut. Well, I'm really pleased with that result, and given the machine only takes about 30 seconds to convert from one mode to the next, I can see me getting a lot of use out of this. And having spent no money and taken up no more space in the workshop, I can see her indoors giving it a thumbs up too. If you've enjoyed this video, please do consider hitting that subscribe button. It really is the best way of letting me know that you'd like to see more content like this in the future. A big thanks goes out to all my supporters on Patreon, and a big thanks goes out to you for watching this video. I hope to see you on the next one.